The advice when gardening with nature in mind, for example to attract butterflies, bees or birds to your garden, is to plant native species. I know I've been banging on about native species in multiple videos so far, but I haven't gone into detail on just why native plants are so important, and such a vital part of supporting biodiversity. After all, flowers are flowers, right? Does it really matter to the butterflies or bees if the flowers are native or not? Woodland is woodland. What difference does it make whether the trees are native? Hi, I'm Dr. Eleanor Tufnell, an environmental scientist, and I've recently visited the stunningly beautiful Foxley Wood, which is under the care of Norfolk Wildlife Trust and the Woodland Trust. Using Foxley Wood as a case study, in this video I will take you through the complex web of interrelated plants and animals and discuss the advantages of native plants over invasive ones. We'll explore what makes an ancient woodland, and you'll also learn how to differentiate between native English bluebells and Spanish bluebells, as well as explore how the ancient practice of coppicing is helping to restore an ancient woodland to its native state. Foxley Wood, an ancient woodland. Foxley Wood is the largest ancient woodland in Norfolk, England. For reasons that we will explore in due time, it may not initially look the way one might expect an ancient woodland to appear. It is not full of tall, gnarled, ancient, densely packed trees. Instead, it is light and airy, with a quiet, peaceful atmosphere. It's designated a National Nature Reserve and a Site of Special Scientific Interest for good reason. Ancient woodland is unique. It is the richest and most complex land habitat in the UK, and it is home to the greatest number of threatened species of any land habitat in the UK. As the woodland has remained in place for centuries, the wood that has fallen and decayed year after year, and the relatively undisturbed soils, have created the perfect conditions for complex communities of fungi and invertebrates. Ancient woodland supports a large number of often highly specialised species, including insects, mammals and birds. At Foxley, one can find, in some cases only if extremely lucky, a variety of woodland mammals, including foxes, badgers, roe deer, hedgehogs and grey squirrels. Bird species include sparrowhawks, greater and lesser spotted woodpeckers, turtle doves, goshawks, tree creepers, nuthatches, bullfinches, chaffinches, blackcaps, woodcocks and marsh tits. Notable butterfly species include purple hairstreak, silver-washed fritillary, commas, orange tips, peacocks, meadow browns, gatekeepers and purple emperors. Because ancient woodlands take centuries to create, the complex biodiversity cannot simply be replaced. Once it is gone forever. In my video on planting trees as part of geoengineering, I discussed how effective woodland is for storing carbon. Approximately 25% of the UK's woodland is ancient, but those ancient woodlands are responsible for 37% of the carbon stored in the UK's woods and trees. Ancient woodlands are disproportionately good at carbon capture and storage, which makes them all the more vital to protect. Ancient woodland here refers to woodland that has existed in England since 1600. Why 1600? Well, that is when maps started to become relatively reliable, so it is possible to be reasonably sure that an area was covered in woodland at that time. Ancient woodland is rare in the UK and makes up only 2.5% of land cover. Ancient woodlands fall into several categories. Firstly, we shall discuss plantations on ancient woodland sites. This is where the original species were felled to make room for usually non-native commercial tree planting, often conifers. While these ancient woodlands are damaged, they retain much of the complex soil of ancient woodland, often containing remnants of the original specialist species that once existed before the plantation. This is what happened to Foxley Wood, with conifers planted in the 1960s for commercial purposes. By the time the Norfolk Wildlife Trust began buying the wood in 1989, it was mostly conifer plantation. Painstaking work over decades has slowly transformed Foxley into a different category of ancient wood, the ancient semi-natural woodland. Most of these woods have a long history of use by humans for timber or other industries, but have otherwise been allowed to develop naturally. A great deal of work was done at Foxley Wood, both to remove the invasive conifers and to replace them with native trees. My best friend actually took part in some of this as a kid. The most common tree in certain parts of Foxley Wood is the downy birch. Elsewhere, the woodland was planted predominantly with ash and oak, though ash dieback, a disease caused by a fungus, has significantly reduced the potential for long-term survival of ash trees. So the woodland is likely to evolve into an oak-dominated one, though a variety of other species will remain, such as wild cherry, birch, field maple, hazel, rowan, alder, and willow. Restoring and managing ancient woodland. Humans have been modifying their environment probably as long as there have been humans. Very few sections of ancient woodland in the world have been left completely untouched by humans, and the ancient woodland in Britain has a long history of management and use. In the modern world, even ancient landscapes may need active management in order to maintain the habitats required for rare species. Foxley wood achieves this by coppicing sections of woodland in rotation. Coppicing is an ancient traditional means of woodland management, and by ancient I do mean it goes all the way back to the Stone Age. The process involves felling trees at the base, which creates a stool from which new shoots grow. As you can see in the photos here, a coppice tree may have thin trunks growing from its base. Coppicing can be done with a variety of tree species. Historically, coppicing was done to ensure a source of timber and firewood, as different sections known as coops or cants of woodland would be coppiced in rotation. This means that there is always a section ready to harvest while the rest are left to regrow. How long each coop needs to grow varies depending on the species of tree. For hazel trees, this is usually an 8-year cycle, but chestnut trees require 15 to 20 years per cycle. Long straight poles from coppicing were traditionally used for building, particularly fencing and even in gardens as poles for climbing plants such as beans. In the modern world, there is less demand for this kind of wood, and coppicing is primarily done to improve and maintain the health of the forest and its biodiversity. The wood is not, however, wasted. Some is left to rot and provides habitat for many species while improving the soil. Some is still used as firewood, or to create fences, stakes for hedge laying, benches and stiles, often in and around the woodland itself. Coppicing can extend the life of a tree by continually resetting it to its younger stages. Natural woodland is not uniformly dense. Instead, when trees fall due to old age or strong winds, this creates a more open area within the woodland, allowing more light-loving species a chance in the sunshine. This creates natural glades and groves, cycling through open through to dense woodland, allowing a variety of habitats to occur side by side. Coppicing mimics this natural cycle. Newly coppiced areas, fenced off here to protect new growth from being eaten by deer, provide sunny, open areas where woodland flowers and butterflies can flourish. Later, the dense stands of young trees provide nesting sites for birds and cover for larger animals such as deer. My favourite place in Foxley Wood is the glade. This is a natural clearing, believed to go back to the last ice age. Due to its poor, sandy soil, it is thought to have always been sparsely wooded. The glade was maintained for centuries through grazing by livestock, but was dramatically reduced when the conifer plantations replaced the natural woodland. Now, under trust management, the glade has been restored. The conifers removed and replaced with native trees. Livestock has also returned to the area in order to maintain it as a glade. Native plants case study. Native versus Spanish bluebells. Foxley Wood is home to a massive number of ancient woodland indicator species. These are species that are tied to the complex biome of ancient woodland, and as the name suggests, they indicate that the area is the site of ancient woodland. Some of the indicator species found in the Foxley Woods are wood anemone, primrose, red campion, dog mercury, and most pertinent to this section, the native English bluebell. These beautiful flowers are native across most of the UK and prefer calcareous, slightly acidic woodland. The UK is home to around 50% of the world's bluebells. Native bluebells are not to be confused with the Spanish bluebells, which are a non-native species that originated not in Spain, as the name suggests, but Portugal. It is believed to have been first introduced around the 1700s, but was popularised as a garden plant by the Victorians, and from there it escaped into the wild. It has unfortunately hybridised with native bluebells, leading to concerns that it could result in the loss of the genetic distinctiveness of the species. Different studies have come to different conclusions about how far hybridisation has spread into native populations, and it remains a topic of concern. There are also concerns that the Spanish bluebell could outcompete native bluebells for light and space. While the hybridisation of the two species can make identification trickier, there are a few features to look for to distinguish between native and Spanish bluebells. Firstly, the stems. Native bluebells have flowers along one side of the stem, and the stem has a distinct drooping shape. Spanish bluebells, however, have upright stems with flowers all around them. The leaves of native bluebells are narrower, at around 1 to 1.5 centimetres, while the Spanish bluebells have broader leaves that are around 3 centimetres wide. Examine the flowers. Do they have a sweet scent? If so, they're native, as Spanish bluebells have no scent, though depending on the conditions you may not catch the scent even of native bluebells. Colour-wise, native bluebells tend to have a deeper, more violet blue, though they also come in white. Spanish bluebells are a paler blue and often come in white or pink. The shape of the flowers also differs. Native bluebells have a more narrow, tubular-shaped bell, and the tips curl back on themselves. Spanish bluebells have a conical bell shape, and the tips are more spreading and open. Finally, there is the pollen. Native bluebells have cream-coloured pollen, while Spanish bluebells have blue or pale green-coloured pollen. Bluebells are, however, delicate, so please avoid walking over them. Crushing the leaves can kill the plant. Native bluebells are protected under the Wildlife and Countryside Act, 1981, so picking wild bluebells, digging up the plants or bulbs in the countryside is prohibited, and landowners are not allowed to remove bluebells from their land in order to sell them. Trading in wild bluebell bulbs and seeds is also an offence, which is designed to protect wild bluebells from unscrupulous bulb collectors. If you want native bluebells in your garden, please acquire them from reputable suppliers. This is particularly vital as the species is slow to establish, taking at least 5 years from seed to bulb. Bluebells open earlier than many plants, much to the benefit of many species of insect. Woodland butterflies, bees and hoverflies are known to feed on the nectar. This early source of nectar is particularly vital to queen bumblebees, who are known to steal nectar by biting a hole in the bottom of the flower to reach the nectar. How the web fits together. But that's just one flower. It would be unfortunate to lose it, but why does it matter to an ecosystem if a plant is native or not? Native plants are the foundation of a complex food web within the ecosystem. They are vital food sources for native insects, which are in turn also an important part of the ecosystem's food web. They evolved here, so are best adapted for the soil, moisture and weather in that area. They have deep roots, figuratively and literally. Because of this deep root system, they are often better at carbon sequestering than non-native species. Native species are usually best at supporting other native species, as this is the habitat each species evolved to fill. On a cultural level, native plants are a part of an area's heritage, and often have important symbolic, cultural, or spiritual value to local communities. From a biodiversity perspective, native species can support so many other species. For example, the UK's native oak species can support upwards of 2,300 different species. Of those, over 300 are dependent entirely on oaks for their survival, and over 200 are rarely seen on trees other than oak. This is an important point. It's not simply that native plants can support wildlife, but that a great deal of species rely heavily or entirely on them. Species like oak are known as keystone species, as they provide maximum habitat benefit to wildlife, and without them, many species may either struggle or simply not have the habitat they need to survive. Native species are part of a complex web of interconnected species, all of which evolved to exist within that web. Remove one species and all those connected to it are affected, with the impact rippling outwards. At Foxley, we see this web clearly with the purple emperor, which is a rare species of butterfly that had disappeared from Norfolk in the 1970s, but has recently been spotted in Foxley Wood. The adult's preferred habitat is the tree canopies of oak woodland, and they eat aphid honeydew and tree sap, though they are also known to feed on animal dung and even carrion for needed salts and minerals. Their caterpillar's preferred food plant is the goat willow, and eggs are laid on goat willow or grey willow leaves. These are native plants that thrive in the ancient woodland. But remove any of these plants from the ecosystem, and you lose the butterflies. A similar story can be seen with the silver-washed fritillary, which had long disappeared from Norfolk, only to reappear recently in Foxley Wood. They thrive in broadleaf, particularly oak woodland, which feature sunny glades, and rides, which is an open space through the forest. The adults feed on bramble and other flowers in those sunny areas, while their caterpillar's main food plant is the common dog violet, which grows in shady or semi-shady spots in the woodland floor. In both cases, these butterflies require several food plants and varied habitats for their different stages of their life cycles, which are provided by ancient woodlands such as Foxley. As mentioned earlier, Foxley's coppice rotation allows both dense and open woodland areas to form, which creates habitats for the butterflies and their food plants. Conclusion. So to sum up, native species are important because they are part of a complex web of habitat and food that makes up the native ecosystem. Remove one node of that web and you can lose species throughout the web. Ancient woodlands are one of the great examples of a complex native ecosystem, encompassing multiple interrelated and interconnected habitats. Both native species and ancient woodland play disproportionately important roles in maintaining ecosystems. I really hope you've enjoyed this ramble through Foxley Wood, and that you learned something new about ancient woodlands and native species. If you're in Norfolk, England, I do recommend visiting Foxley. Bluebell season is from late March till early May, but Foxley has something to see for every season. The wood is at its most colourful in the summer, with a variety of native wildflowers blooming throughout the summer, and autumn sees a fascinating array of fungi. Winter is quieter but still beautiful, and muddier weather means you can see animal tracks left behind much more easily. If you enjoy my content, please do subscribe. It really helps the channel out and encourages me to make more content. The same can be said for liking, commenting, and sharing the video with anyone you think might enjoy it. So until next time, thank you for watching.